Welcome, folks. Hello. Please introduce yourself in the chat. We'd love to know where you're from, your wellness offerings, and what aspect of customer service always sticks out to you. It's okay if you don't have a perfect answer. But say hello while we wait for folks to join. I'm calling in from the DC area. If anybody there's on the East Coast, we got West Coast, Portland, Oregon, Highland. Don't forget to change your settings to message everyone, not just hosts and panelists. Otherwise, only Jules and I can see it.
Hello, Emma. I'm
Emma
looking at the
UK.
participant list. I'm seeing quite a few familiar names.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, New Zealand. A long way from us, for me at least, in the continental US. Yeah, and folks, as you're sharing, where you're from and what your wellness offerings are, let us know about customer service. Maybe there's a barista near you who always remembers your name and your order. Maybe it's a sticker you get with your makeup order. You can think outside of wellness for that. Valid customer service, actually give an F. Yep. More New Zealand folks, California, welcome. Oh, from Greece, hello. Hi, folks from Sweden, New Jersey, USA. And yeah, let us know yoga, massage, Reiki, mindfulness, kind of what your specialties are that you are doing customer service with. A tea specialist.
Wow,
Ooh.
I know, I saw that. Very cool.
Yoga anatomy. Well, then you probably know Jules and Bar. Yoga and wellness coaching. Wonderful. Marina from Germany. Willkommen. Hatha yoga, somatic yoga. Great. Love sharing that specificity. Anyone else have customer service stories? That's exciting here. I'm in Iowa. Oh, that is still, what's not to love about Iowa? Yoga and group fitness. I love when people remember my name and pronounce it correctly. That is a big one. That is a big one.
Well, now she has to tell us, or
yeah,
he or they have to tell us how you pronounce your name. Is it Dara?
Yeah. Or Dara? Let us know.
Dara like Sarah.
You've got that right, ready to go.
And your pronouns, so I don't botch that again.
Cynthia from Missouri, okay. Yoga, mindfulness. Oops. Yoga, mindfulness, meditation for adults and kids. Ooh. All right, folks, well, please continue to introduce yourself as you join. We're so happy you're here. I'm going to get us started with a quick welcome and housekeeping before I pass over to Jules for this webinar. So I'm Camille from Offering Tree. Drop a note in the chat if you're here from Offering Tree. We are the all-in-one business platform for your wellness entrepreneur business. We put everything in one place so you can spend more time teaching and less time with technology. So scheduling, classes, courses, memberships, website, we've got it. If you're looking for a new home for your online business or your wellness business, you should check out offeringtree.com/Jules. You can get a nice discount. It's about 15%, and everyone gets a 14-day free trial. And we offer these monthly, every so often webinars because we know that while technology is really important, it's not the only thing you need to have a successful wellness business. And I'm really so excited about the topic today about customer relationships, because as service providers, wellness business owners, customer relationships are really the heart of what we do. And especially in kind of an online business world where it can feel like sometimes a lot of pressure to scale or to grow, we can really forget how important and really the lifeblood of our business are these one-to-one relationships. And I'm so excited to introduce Jules Mitchell to teach us about this today. She's a yoga educator. You might know her from her book, from her mentoring program, or from her yoga teacher training. And we're really happy to have her here to talk about customer relationships. One more housekeeping thing. For communicating with us today, we definitely want you to feel free to ask any questions as they come up. Please use the question box or the Q&A box to ask your questions. That way, Jules and I are not going to miss that. Use the chat for chat. That's great. But if you have questions that you want to make sure we address, put it in the question box, and then we will make sure they get answered. And with that, passing it over to you, Jules.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Let me just switch my view for a moment. Okay, just to make the, okay, now I'm at ease. All right, so a lot of you know me. I know a lot of you just from looking at the participant list, but I'll give you a quick introduction into who I am and kind of how this became a webinar that I was interested in teaching. As Camille said, I work in the yoga sphere. I'm a yoga educator. I am a solopreneur, which means I do everything myself. And that's a real struggle, but I know many of you go through that. And that's why customer relationships are even more important, because it's you. It's you when they have a refund request, and it's you when you get a comment on social media that you need to answer. It's always you. And so it's really good to figure out how you want to interact with your customers. Even though I am a solopreneur, I have hired help in different areas. So I've hired some help in some web design here and there. I've hired some help with building social media assets. I've hired some help with product design and also with email campaigns and those kind of 4 areas. And those have been different people that I've went to get help with. And I've learned a little from each of them, but they're not like on my staff or on my payroll. It's kind of like when I have something big that I need some assistance with, that comes up. But I've learned a lot from them. And so that's what I'm sharing with you here, just some, industry tips. Also, my business in its current iteration is about 7 years old, about 2015. I've been teaching yoga for much longer than that. But businesses evolve, and as you create more products and work with new clients, you get more and more confident with what it is that you want to present to the world. And so your business is always iterating. And the one that I'm in right now, which is my solopreneur yoga educator business, where I don't teach at a studio and I don't teach education that is other people's programs, it's all mine. That it was always evolving. There's not a hard line, but I would say the way it is now is about 7 years old. So I would like to kind of know who's here so I can customize this webinar for you. And so I'm going to ask you a couple questions to put in the chat. First one we already did is, are you in yoga? Are you a tea specialist? Or are you in bar? What's your industry? The second one is, what type of business are you? Are you a solopreneur? Do you own a studio, that like a brick and mortar business? That's important for me to know if you're here. Maybe you're all online, or maybe you're a combination. Maybe you teach for a studio and you have an online business. So just kind of type quickly in there so I get a feel for who's here. Hi, Erin. Yeah, so you travel, present online, that's helpful. You're opening a studio, great. Awesome, keep them coming. And part of this is because I want you to see that these lessons that I'm going to talk about with you all, they work for anybody in any stage, because you're all dealing with customers, whether you have teachers that teach underneath you at a studio, or whether you are a solopreneur. And the second question then is, how long have you been doing what you do now? And to make it easy, just say less than 5 years or more than 5 years. So just say less or more. It doesn't need to be exact. I don't need to know that you've been in business 17.2 years. I just want to get an idea. So we have a nice collection here. Lots of people less, many people more. These are all tips that will help everybody. Great. Awesome. Okay, so part of the reason why I don't have slides today, and those of here who have studied with me know that I love slides. I have slides for almost everything. But I really wanted today to be about you and how you want to kind of customize your customer relationships. And so it's going to be a little bit interactive for you. So if you don't have a pen and paper, make sure you grab that, because you're going to be writing things down. I want you to be taking messy notes. Don't worry about how they look. I want ideas that come to your head, write them down. And if I'm showing you slides, you're going to miss that. So there's really, nothing to memorize out of this. There's just your thoughts to generate. And I want you to think about your customer relationships and how they span every aspect of your business. How you interact with your customers defines your brand, right? It forms who you are or what your business is, again, if you're not a solopreneur. It also paves the way for how you market and sell. And not only how you market and sell, the tone that you use, but also what you market and sell. You'll find the products that you build really should, don't want to say need to, nothing needs to happen anywhere, but really should consider your audience and how you relate to them. And I'll give you lots of examples so that you can start to work on your own examples. Also, how you make decisions about how you distribute the product, especially if you're an online business and you're using Offering Tree, which is a great all-in-one platform for helping you figure out how you are going to make the content available to your people. That is actually part of how you relate to your customers. I know you don't think it is, right? You might think it's just your brand, but the ease at which they can access your content, the duration at which they can access your content. Do you have expiration dates? Do you honor the expiration dates? All of that is part of your business. What you post on social media. Like, social media is not separate from your business. It's part of your business. And not just what you post on social media, but the value of social media. Not all businesses, local businesses might not need big international Instagram platforms. Do they work well with each other? So kind of like what your target is. And I'll give you some examples for that. And then the content of your emails. I think most people really struggle with emails because they don't know what to say. What you say is who you are and what your business is, and it is everything about how you interact with them. And then you can add, et cetera, you can add in the chat if you have any other ideas on how this influences you. So you think you're selling a product, but what you're actually doing is communicating with your customer base. That's where the sale happens. And if you get really clear on communicating who you are and what you're about and what you're up to with your customer base, you won't feel like you're selling anymore. It'll feel very organic. And I've actually stepped into creating a lot more sales type videos than I ever have before. And at first I was like, this feels really salesy, but it doesn't, because it's like it's a different environment when I'm really just speaking from my heart to my customer base. And so I've been given some really good advice on all of this, which I plan to help you with today. Okay, so the description of the course said we're going to cover all kinds of things: theory, reflection, practical steps, technology, tips and tricks. And so we'll go through all that. I'd like to start with the theory. So the first thing I want to get to the kind of nitty gritty here is that your business is iterative. I've said that word already. You might want to write that down. Iterative. It's always evolving. So it's very easy to get caught up in having everything right and then launching the business, having your bio exactly as you want it to be, and then you think it's done. And that's actually not the case at all. Nothing in your business is done. It's never complete. And I don't want you to get frustrated by that. It's actually really empowering to know that the first bio that you put up about yourself is not going to be the last one, and that it's always evolving. You're always refining how you communicate. And again, don't let that be a hindrance. Let that be something that gives you a little bit of sensitivity toward yourself. So you're not trying to get it perfect in the first round. It'll never be perfect in the first round. And use like as a rule of thumb, use urgency as your guide. My mom always told me that, you have this huge to-do list. The only things that actually get done on the to-do list are the things that make it to the urgent part of the to-do list. If it's not urgent, it gets moved. And I always go back to that. And let me give you a great example. I have 3 bios. I have a short bio that's like 150 words or less. Then I have a longer bio. And then I have like a huge about page on my website. And when I agreed to do this webinar, Camille reached out to me and I sent her the bio options. And she put together the sales page, and I looked at it and I said, well, that bio is really outdated. It really doesn't like match at all what I'm doing. I haven't looked at it in 3 or 4 years. Really, I haven't. And so all of a sudden it became urgent that I revise my bio. And all of a sudden, in 20 minutes, I updated the bio and sent it to her and said, can you please just update this? Now, I haven't yet updated the long form bio, and I haven't yet updated the about bio, and they are on my to-do list, but they're not urgent. So that's okay. That's a normal process. Things that you think need to get done, they'll get done when they need to happen. So the best thing that you can do is just keep moving forward. Just keep putting yourself out there, because things will rearrange themselves on your to-do list. Okay. The next thing that I would like you to think about is, you can write down the 2 letters UX, which is user experience. Client and customer communication isn't only about the words that you write or the words that you say. It's also about their experience when they come onto your site, when they walk in through the door. And this is way bigger than just the customer service, than remembering that Dara pronounces her name Dara. That's part of it, yes. But it's also just the overall experience of norms. So let me give an example. If you walk into a Home Depot, you can expect that at the end of every aisle, there's a sign that tells you what's in there, in that aisle. You expect that. Could you imagine if you walked into a Home Depot, and I don't know if in other countries, an IKEA, every country has an IKEA, and there was no like you wouldn't know where to go or what to do. It would be very frustrating as an experience. Those little things are actually customer communication. So if on a website, just think about it, answer me in the chat. If you wanted to go to the home page, what would you look for and what would you click? Or if you wanted to go to the login, you're looking at a website and you wanted to log in, where would you go? Great. The logo for the home page, the home or the logo, where do you generally see that on the screen, right? So Darlene, top menu bar. That's great for the home. What about the login? Is the login on the right or on the left? What corner? What corner do you generally see? On the right. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? That is all part of your communication with your customer. And there's standards out there, there's norms out there. And it's not on you to reinvent the norm. So pay attention, whether you're a brick and mortar, or whether you're an online business, pay attention to these little details. Are you following convention or are you not? And the best way to do this is to, oh, you're so lucky, Leah, yes. The best way to do this is to user test it. Get a friend who's not in the industry to user test it. User test every single thing. And that's just for, your website or your building, but also think little things that you might not think about. The links in your email. How many of you have sent out an email and the link is wrong? And then all of a sudden someone sends you a message and you need to resend the same newsletter with in the subject fixed link. Only one of you have done that. I feel like a lot of people are saying, so again, test everything. That's part of the user experience. Just yesterday, I tried to sign up for a yoga class in a local studio on the mobile app and on my phone, and it would not take my credit card number. The Google Pay would pop up and I could put in the code and it wouldn't take it. And luckily, so I went to my desktop and signed up, and then let them know. But not everybody does that. And so you have to pay really special attention to all of those little details. I test every single link all the time, and it still happens. It still happens to me, especially when you bring someone on. If you bring someone on to help you with a certain project, they tend to not be as involved in your business as you. And so you really have to check. At one point, I had a teacher training video in my mentoring program because they didn't change the video and I assumed they did. So always test everything. Okay, so outside of all of that, let's now talk about words, and then I'll stop for questions if there are any. But the language that you use. And I want you to think about what I've said so far on convention and the user experience and the way you talk about your business. Do you use jargon, industry jargon, or do you use words that the general public or your audience, whoever you're trying to reach, identifies with and understands? And think about that. Pull up your website, go look at your bio, and just be honest with yourself and think, does the average person that you're trying to attract, whoever that is, whatever your audience is, are they able to grasp exactly what you do, or is it more for you? Did you write that for you? If that makes sense. And we'll do some reflections in a little bit. Okay, so before I go on with the next two kind of bullet points, are there any questions so far on the iterative nature of your business? Are there any comments? Is there any curiosity about, great, thank you. UX, user experience, do you know what I mean by that? Or is that a new term for you? I'll give a little pause. And I don't see any questions in the Q&A, so. Yes, Emma, it feels very iterative. It's always iterative. There's always something to be done. But that's okay, because that means you can't do it all right now. So you just do something. Okay. So do you pronounce your name Leanne or Liane? Is it like Diane or Diane? I want to get that right. I have a hard time with the idea that I should be writing at a third grade level when I don't even speak like that. It feels inauthentic to me. That's one of those, I'm going to guess that's like some marketing advice you've heard from someone. And I don't want you to put yourself in a box. It's better that you write authentically. I think those are what happens is we get these tweetable pieces of advice. You know, everyone should write at a third grade level. Everything should be above the fold. Well, you know, people scroll. So you can have things below the fold. If you've ever heard that phrase, below, you know, when you show up on a website, what's beneath is below the fold. It comes from the old newspaper days. You know, always write at a third grade level. I would let that go and write authentically to you, but with your customer in mind. Who is your customer? Because if your customer is a third grader, then you probably should be writing at a third grade level. My customer base is not. My customer base are yoga teachers who are interested in science. So I don't write at a third grade level. My book is not at a third grade level. So again, that's like kind of like a marketing tip, but doesn't cover the depths of customer communication. So I hope that frees you up a little bit. Oh, it's Casey. So that you're on your boss's account. All right, got it. Okay. Sarah says, should your bio reflect where you're heading in your business? I wouldn't say that. It's a really good question. I would say that you should reflect what you're doing right now, because you might think you're going down the right fork, but you might actually end up going down the left fork. And now you've been telling the world you're going over here when you're going over there. That's the great news, is that you can change it as you change what you do. So I would just say what you're doing right now. You can say things like, and you know, like my bio would say, like, and I also do research with ASU, you know, I like hinting toward things, but maybe not as very specific. That's a really good question. I hope that answers it. Bridie feels much better when she hears me talk. It can feel overwhelming, I know, but it's just part of it. Okay, let's move on. A big term that also I'd like you to kind of embody is the term empathy. Empathy being the idea that you're putting yourself in their shoes. Imagine you were the customer. Imagine that you're the customer, and you know that you need some sort of exercise, but you don't know what. And you go to Google, and what are you gonna search for? What are you know? And so it's like you're being sensitive by having empathy for what your customer is looking for, what their experiences are. And you can take that word empathy and pull on that thread in your own business for a very long time. But what are the types of things that call to your customer? So when I referenced to you earlier that I was doing these marketing videos that felt really salesy at first, but they weren't, because the minute I sat with it for a long time, now I'm making videos that are saying, are you the kind of yoga teacher that wants all the answers? And that to me is not salesy. It was salesy when I didn't take it from the empathetic perspective. But I know that the teachers, that many of you are here, you can validate this. I know that the teachers that take my 300 hour, they're looking for answers. So my question that is reaching out and talking to the customer is now no longer, I'm not selling them, I'm reaching right into their pain points. I'm talking right to them, and it actually feels good. It feels very authentic. Like, I actually can help you. I might not give you the answer, but I can help you feel at ease around not knowing the answer, or I can help you feel more confident around not knowing the answer, or I can give you the support to go to find out where the answer might be, right? So again, like, that took me sitting down for a really long time and making notes. Who am I teaching to all yoga teachers, or am I teaching to a specific yoga teacher? And I know that Offering Tree does a lot of webinars where they really talk about niching down. And that's essentially what I'm saying here. Like, figure out who your audience is and then appeal to them, not because you're selling to them, but because you understand them. Okay. And then the last thing, so we have iterative, UX, user experience, empathy. And the last thing is repurpose. you have to repurpose content that reinforces your message over and over. It gets you to reinforce your message over and over, so you get better at saying the things that you say. And it also just saves you a ton of time and effort. So you reuse posts, you repost things, you resize, you have a video that's horizontal, you resize it vertical and make it a reel. And I'll give you some tips for this if we have time a little bit later. You recycle old content. I will take an email and then 3 weeks later, I'll do an email that's a thought provoker. And then 3 months later, I'll just post it as a blog. Because the person coming to my site trying to get to know me and finding my blog didn't get that email. They weren't on my email list at that time. Does that make sense? Plus, the people that did read the email, if 6 months later they come to my blog, they probably forgot they read the email anyway, because I'm not the center of their world. So they probably forgot, and then they see the blog and they're like, oh, cool idea. You can turn the blog into a social media post. And if you're not doing that now, kind of a fun practice is what I just said. Like, nobody's thinking about your business the way you are. So if you've ever gone to a party and you said something really stupid, you put your foot in your mouth, and the next day you're like, oh, if I just not had that extra glass of wine, I wouldn't have said something so stupid. Has that ever happened to anyone? Happens to me and my sister all the time. So we call each other the next day, and I'm like, nobody cares what you said. Nobody's thinking about you today. They're worried about all their own stuff. So you're fine. Nobody cares that much about you. So keep that in mind when you're wanting to repurpose content. You just they don't remember. It's a post from 6 months ago. You can post it again. Plus your caption will be different. And those of you who teach yoga classes know that. You've taught a similar sequence. You've gone in oh, I'm going to teach the same class that I taught this morning to my 2 o'clock. But then it ends up being a little bit different anyway. So it's okay to do that. So your business is iterative. You should consider the user experience. Always take empathy into the foreground, and then repurpose content. Okay. Any questions so far? Because I'm going to give you some assignments to kind of work on as we go. No open questions. Everyone good? Either everyone's typing or everyone's waiting for me to go on. Okay. All right. So write down who your audience is. It doesn't have to be perfect. You might not get it right. Just write it down. If you're the tea specialist, are they caffeine drinkers? Are they not caffeine drinkers? Are they both? Do they drink hot tea or cold tea or both? Get really specific. Write down who your audience is. Are they yoga teachers? Are they yoga students, bar students, Pilates students? That's harder because now you have 3 kind of separate avenues. Can you kind of lump them together? Can you separate them and lump them together? And just do a messy diagram so you can go back to this later, right? Can you identify what's unique about them, about each type of client or customer, and then how they work as a whole? If you're a studio owner, are they your customers, or are they customers of the teachers that work for you? That's also an important distinction. And if they're customers for the teachers that work for you, where do they fit? Where's the next level? So they're still your customers because they're paying for your business. So what is your relationship to those students? Darlene, if you're totally brand new, it can be what's ideal, but just who comes to you? Who takes a class from you? And if you've never taught a class and you're completely brand new, then who do you want to take classes from you? So Darlene I know Darlene, she might say people with migraines. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to work on that while I look at the questions. I have an email list. I'll do that at the end. And perfectionism. There's two good questions, but they're a little off this, and I'll make sure that we have time for those at the end. Okay, so now that you've kind of identified, who your audience is, you've already identified to me what you do, right? Whether you teach yoga or whether you teach bar, or whether you work with kids. Try this for an exercise. What do you do in one sentence? This is really, really hard, and you won't get it right now. But write a few sentences out, different ones. What do you do in one sentence? Here's the scenario. When you go to the dentist, and right before they're about to clean your teeth, they ask you a question, and you're like, "Are you?" Imagine right before they go to clean your teeth, they're like, what do you do? Can you say it quickly in one sentence? Can you just tell them what you do so that there's no further questions, so that they can go right to cleaning your teeth, and that's that? Like, I teach kindergarten. Okay, that's pretty clear. What do you do? Maybe it's I own a yoga studio. Right, so that's a really good exercise, and I'm going to go over some examples with you. The one sentence version. And then for later, because it's going to be longer, but I'm going to give you this as an example. Now assume you sit down next to a chatty airplane passenger. You know how that happens. And you try to get them to, they ask you, so what do you do? So you give them the one sentence answer. I teach kindergarten. But then there's follow-up questions. That's the long form, where you get to fill in all the things. And there are two different things to get clear on, right? The summary, the right to the point, and then the longer one. And these are worth writing just as an exercise. Even if you never publish it as a blog, it's worth writing as an exercise just so that you can get clear. Even if you write this every day and it's different every day and you never share it with anyone, but writing is one of the best ways. I'm doing this because I like to actually write it out by hand, but you might like to type. But writing it out is one of the best ways to make it clear, whether you stand behind it or not. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples to help you. My one sentence is, I teach biomechanics to yoga teachers. That's my one sentence. I don't actually use it very often. I might use it at the dental chair, but I don't use it very often. But if you go to my website, everything I do teaches biomechanics to yoga teachers, whether it's my book, whether it's my teacher training, whether it's my mentoring program, even this. I even have classes, a package of yoga classes, where in the yoga classes, even though it's like I'm teaching yoga, I'm teaching it to yoga teachers, kind of through a biomechanics lens. I'm talking to the students as if they're yoga teachers. Everything feeds into that. And that makes it really easy to share myself, because I don't feel spread thin, even though I have massive amounts of different components and different types of content. And I know for studio owners, that's really hard, because you have people working under you. But that makes this exercise even more valuable. Because if you teach in a different style than the teachers that teach under you, that's okay. How are you going to fit it all together so that the customer gets what's happening? So they walk into the IKEA and they know they're at IKEA. Let me give you another example. This is from someone in my mentoring program that we've been working on this. And I'm going to show you the difference. It's not her one sentence. We've evolved it. So mine is, I teach biomechanics to yoga teachers. Hers is, I inspire people toward a healthier way of being mentally, physically, and emotional through practices that evoke resilience, adaptability, and embodiment. That's very unclear. It's not unclear to us as industry people. We understand embodiment and resilience, and we understand that things like yoga can make you mentally and physically and emotionally happier, healthier. But if a client was coming to look for you, they wouldn't understand what that means, right? And I think this is a big thing to get really realistic about in the movement world. If people are coming to you, are people looking for movement, or are they looking for yoga or Pilates or fitness or exercise? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we are all getting so lost in, is it yoga? Is it, what is it? So now we're all of a sudden we're gonna have this movement conversation. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it in the as Robin calls it, your positioning statement, right? In your mission statement, it's not clear. And you have whatever the statistics are, milliseconds to seconds to get people to see what you're doing. I just did a graphic and got some feedback from someone non-industry, and it was a picture of me resting on some yoga props. And she said, "Oh, you sell yoga props." Okay, that is not a good way to communicate to my base. It's a really cute picture, but that's not the one that I want people to see when they show up. And that's not the one I want people to think of. So I learned that way. Okay, so then I'm going to give you one more example. This is another person in my mentoring program. We kind of worked through this. And I'm going to give you some of her examples and what we finally settled with. So she came up with like happier, healthier life through yoga therapy, helping you feel more confident in movement by getting to know yourself better, giving you skills to use in your everyday life, giving you skills you need to help navigate your life through yoga and other movement therapies. And what we finally came up with after lots of work was, I'm a yoga therapist who helps people with chronic pain and long-term illness. So she dialed in exactly who she was catering to and who she was working with. And that she brought yoga therapy into the mix because that's what she does. And again, she might not have this like on her website. Whether you use the statement or not isn't the point. The point is that everything, all your choices and all of the above things that we talked about feed back into that. Okay. Any questions so far, or just comments, or just let me know, how are you feeling about this? Is this like impossible, or did you already have this done? If you've already had it done and you open your social media, does everything support that sentence? I mean, of course there's outliers. I'm doing this, right? I'm doing this, and this isn't about biomechanics. But that's okay, because it's a fun thing, and I can still funnel in my business. Like, for example, there's like, at the end of this, I think you get like you can find out more about me or something. It's what I offered is a biomechanics course or whatever, because actually that's what I do. So I'm not trying to like poach as many emails as I can get. You know what I mean? I actually just want to do an offer for people that want the biomechanics. This is just a kind of a side gig, right? Yes, exactly, Robin. Everything should have the same narrative. It might not have to be the same sentence, but the same narrative. Okay, I'm going to answer the questions that are in the Q&A. And then we'll see what's left. I've got way more little tips and tricks here to give you, more assignments if we have enough time. Okay. So Robin has a really good question. How can you build an email list when you work for other people? Studios, rec centers, etc. All right, that is a fantastic question. First of all, if you like the people you work with, you should be able to have a candid conversation with them and say, hey, look, you know, I have information I'd like to share. Am I allowed to tell people to sign up for my email list? If you're not, which might be the case, there's nothing stopping your customers from finding you on the internet. So I go to a Pilates studio here and they do not put bios of their teachers on their page. So I have to do a little sleuthing to find out who they are, you know, but sometimes it helps. Like if they say in class, oh, let's take a picture for Instagram. Like now I know they're on Instagram. Or, you know, they, at the end of class say, you know, hi, you know, thanks for coming to class. My name's Jules Mitchell. You can find me online. If you have questions, you can reach out. You know, you can say things that aren't like trying to sell someone a product. And the point of all of that is there's value for them coming to your site. So you might drop into the middle of your class. I sent my email list yesterday a really cool video that breaks down this breathing practice that we're doing in class. You just kind of say it in passing. And then they think, oh, I really want that email. When they go home, they get on, you know, they get in their car and they Google you. You're not hard to find anymore. So that was always my approach. When I was trying to build my private client business, I would always be like, I do a version of a pose and be like, oh, I taught this with a private client yesterday and da. And now they hear me and now they identify me as somebody who teaches private clients. It's a little sneaky, but it's real. You're just communicating with your students. Does that help? That was from Robin. Okay. And again, if you feel confident in what you offer, then it's easy. Then it doesn't feel like selling. You know, if you're truly, you're just talking about yourself, it's okay. So Leah, how do you manage perfectionism with the iterative approach? And then she has the monkey emoji. I handle perfectionism because I'm a Virgo perfectionist. I handle perfectionism by just having too much to do. I go by that urgent rule of thumb. I have to-do lists, you know, I have a notepad for my lab and a notepad for my course and a notepad for the teachers. And I jot things down out so they're out of my head on paper, but I rarely have to check it because I don't go to my to-do list and say, what should I do today? I do what comes up, what becomes urgent. So if I'm going to add something to my website and suddenly I see there's 4 courses on there that are already over that I haven't taken down, suddenly that becomes urgent and I just do it real quick. I don't write that down, you know, so whatever comes up, you're always going to have something to do and it'll never be done. And it can be redone. I help people produce their first courses in my mentoring program. And they're always like, I think I need to add another video, or I think I need to refilm this video. You can refilm it after you've sold it. Like, it's okay. I've done that. The free course that I offer, the slides are the same, but I've done the voiceover since it was launched because I teach with a more sophisticated narrative now. So you can always redo. So follow the urgent list. You can only do what can be done. Emma, let's see. Lots of questions for now, but what's your view on restricting to an age group? It's worked for me and also hasn't. It's very emotive. Over 40, over 50 is not as simple as kids. I get you. That's a little bit more sensitive. But over 40, over 50, you can say, you can in your mind, middle-aged adults, older adults. You don't have to restrict it to an age. That's not youth or adolescent, or it's not young adults. So instead of kind of like drawing a hard line, and maybe you don't, again, maybe that's your sentence for you, but that's not what you project to the world. But then if you choose stock images, you're not choosing 20-year-olds, you're choosing 50-year-olds. So now your vision that you've created with your sentence is reflected in all of your work. Anything that you post on social media or a story with a client, you tie that in. Instead of saying, I only work with older adults, you say, I was working the other day with a menopausal woman and blah, 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 blah. So it goes into the imagery instead of the exact word. Joanna says urgency has the potential to be quite depressing. Change the word then, Joanna. Change the word. Important. But if nothing's urgent, I'm going to sit around and read my Kindle all day long. So I need urgency to get me going. Change the word. Yes, depressurizing. Important, relevant for today, relevant for what you're working on. You can change the word. But I'm just saying, you're going to have a to-do list of a lot of things that need to get done, but don't need to get done today. They'll get done when all of a sudden the natural progression of your business will call them forward, like my short bio. It's needed to get done for a while. But me putting myself out there and moving forward, doing things, all of a sudden took I don't even think I have update my bio on a list from back then. All of a sudden it landed there. And those of you that have 16,000 emails in your inbox, it's a similar thing. The important stuff, somebody will follow up with you. So don't be overwhelmed. Just do what it naturally comes to surface. Okay, a couple more questions. Camilla, I don't know how much more time we have. Let's see. Okay,
come back to the chat. We have 8 minutes left. So if you're Jules is taking questions now, so now's your time. We've got a little bit of time left. Otherwise, we can always go through more tips or give you back your 7 minutes now. Let us know, folks.
I'll chat a little bit while they type in any more questions.
Wonderful.
Just so that I want to give them some calls to action, because I think all this swirling in your head doesn't do much. So if I were to give you an assignment, right, I would say, create a social media post for today or tomorrow, all of you, that expresses your sentence. What is that going to be? Is it going to be a photo? Are you going to make an image quote, like your face with words next to it or something like that? Like, practice, put it into practice. And it's okay if you don't get it right. That's why it's iterative. You just keep getting better at it. So create a social media post, whether it's a video or a graphic or a photo. Okay, so that's your first assignment. And it's so helpful when someone tells you what to do for social media. I do that in the teacher training, like, post this. And so get together with a friend and be like, what are you going to post today? You should post this. What should I post? And then have them give you an idea. Take that social media post and later this week, repurpose it into a short form blog. Like, use that image and basically take the caption and expand upon it a little bit, a short form blog. Now, all of a sudden, you've repurposed that content. I see that, Suzanne. Let me just finish this. If you're up for it, write a long form blog. Write a blog that is the long version of the one sentence, that the chatty airline person next to you, and you explain everything that you do and how you make people feel great and all of that. Like, write one of those. this is a project for later, but an important one. Create an email campaign that is specific to the people that join your newsletter. So when you go to my website and you join my newsletter, you get a sequence of emails that says, "Hi, I'm Jules. Thanks for being here. This is what I do. I teach people about this, and I have all these philosophies about learning, and let me share them with you." And then a week later, by the way, I wrote a book. So and if I do, like, let's just say I do a special promotion like on social media, and then I'll go to the social media question, like, join my email list to get this video. I actually switch out the link on my social media so that the people who sign up to get a video get that product and not this long onboarding thing. And then a few days later, I'll switch it back. Because people that just land on your website on accident should be treated one way versus people that, have been on your list for a long time. And so I do that. I have like 2 paths, and I know you can do that with an offering tree. You can create email sequences and all that. So, get with someone and really think about that, and how when someone signs up for your newsletter, are they just going to get your next sales email, or are they going to be carefully and deliberately, with nice empathy, onboarded into who you are? And that's a big project. That's worth setting aside a couple days, if not more, reviewing, editing, having people look at it. But simple ones. Today you can do a social media post. Tomorrow you can turn it into a short form blog, and kind of use these lessons that I've given you as actual actionable tools and or tricks to get into action and to share them with the world. You can edit them later. Okay, so there was a question about how important to my business is social media interaction. I don't know if you're asking about me or general or you, right? So for all of you, because we only have 3 minutes left, for all of you, that's really individual, and you'll have to look at that and with grab some friends and discuss it. I don't believe that social media interaction is necessary for all businesses, especially if you're local. Let me give you an example. One of the women in my mentoring group, she used to be a pharmaceutical sales rep. And she has this massive connection on LinkedIn. She has like 7,000 connections on LinkedIn. But she's been doing Instagram posts. And she recently closed her studio. And we were talking, and I was like, and she's now switching to online teaching, and we were talking about her audience. And her audience is like, general people who just need less stress and need a 30-minute meditation class and need a gentle stretch class. And I was like, so your audience is basically all of the people you used to work with in pharmaceutical sales that you have connection with in LinkedIn? She was like, yeah. I was like, then why aren't you posting in LinkedIn? Why are you posting to 50 followers on Instagram, trying to build your Instagram just because that's trendy, when you actually have your built-in audience? So it's hard for me to just answer the question, Suzanne, without knowing all the details, but take an inventory. That's why who is your audience is so important. Are they moms in your kids' soccer group? Then your Facebook group is your best bet. You might not be able to advertise yourself, but you could be like chatting in a comment thread, "Oh, haha, that happened to me at yoga class the other day when I was teaching," or something like that. You know what I mean? You can tie it in. So everybody's strategy is going to be different. And it's worth using these tools I gave you to kind of figure out how you want to navigate with social media. It can be a waste of time. Maybe you don't need all the platforms. Choose the one that works best for you. Okay, I think we have 1 minute left.
Yes, last call, okay, everyone.
I have 2 questions here. Okay, so there's a question about niche to be autoimmune diseases. I don't think that's too niche for your overall branding business. But again, you might not want to like say it out loud, like, I only teach people with autoimmune disease. Like that's going to narrow your field. But in your community communication, you're going to be showing that you work with students with autoimmune diseases, Crohn's disease, so on. And then people that are in that general sphere will relate to you in that. And they might be like, oh, well, I have XYZ, but I think Donna can help me with that because of the population that she works with. So I hope that helps, Donna. And Emma, post that in our social network and I'll answer you later because I don't want to, it's kind of specific about stuff and we're at time.
Thank you so much, Jules, for spending this hour with us today. Thank you to everybody who's watching live or who's watching the replay. Check your email because we will be sending out not only some more resources from Jules, but also this replay video and some more information about Offering Tree. So thank you all so much for coming. Have a great week. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.